Info Ninja. Welcome back to the dojo, everybody. Thank you for joining us. It's always a pleasure to be deep inside you. Deep inside your ears, you sickos. And speaking of sickos, we may have attracted a few more of them for this episode because today we're talking about nipple clamps, baby. That's right. You have come to the dojo, the place where you get the info. And since I'm the info ninja, I'm going to answer that question. Where did the nipple clamps come from? What are nipple clamps for? Let's get nipping.
Can somebody give me a high?
So yes, we are going to dive into the tantalizing history of nipple clamps. Why nipple clamps? Because I was curious about them. I thought maybe you might be curious about them too. They're all part of the BDSM movement, and I'll be honest, it was probably a few years ago I finally learned what BDSM actually is. It's a sexual thing where people basically beat the shit out of each other for sexual pleasure. There's many degrees of beating the shit out of each other. BDSM actually stands for beat the shit out of her, man.
You were literally too stupid to insult.
If you've ever gotten a titty twister before, you know that they hurt. So why would someone want to do that to feel pleasure? And why and when were these clamps first created? So that is what we're going to answer here today for you.
No, thank you.
So our story starts in the 18th century with none other than Marquez de Sade. I'm pronouncing that wrong, but it's a name from history that we all know, Marquez de Sade, S-A-D-E. In his 1790 novel entitled Justine, he described devices that pinch nipples for erotic torment. Interesting use of words there, erotic torment. Sounds like a great, emo band name.
Are you serious?
While de Sade's work was more fantasy than fact, it hinted to the fact that nipple clamps or a similar tool were already part of Europe's underground sex culture back in the 18th century. Medical tools like forceps might have inspired these early experiments as adventurous folks repurposed them for bedroom play.
Oh no, oh no, oh no, don't get a boner.
By the 19th century, nipple clamps were gaining traction. Literally, they were pinching. It's hard to do an episode about nipple clamps, folks, but they were pinching themselves into the culture in the Victorian Europe's secret subcultures. They had little sex clubs, and I think these still, via Diddy, at least used to be via Diddy, then via Epstein, exist today. But despite this is the Victorian era's prudish facade, private clubs and erotic literature buzzed with kinky ideas. Early clamps were likely handmade from metal or wood used by those with means for custom toys. So then it goes on that in the 1850s, they invented the clothespin. This was a way to pin up your clothes on the line so that it can get dried naturally by the wind. And this kind of offered a DIY option for nipple clamping for the average person. The early 20th century brought nipple clamps closer to the mainstream. Underground erotica markets and mail-order catalogs sold metal clamps often disguised as health devices to dodge censorship. So today, if you order a sex toy, it comes wrapped in the brown paper and nobody knows what it is. I guess the mailman has probably figured out that thing wrapped in brown paper that's phallic in nature probably is not a banana.
It's not funny!
But anyway, they were doing it back then. They were disguising them as health devices to dodge all the censorship. So these were very basic nipple clamps with very stiff springs and simple grips, but they evolved into styles like clover clamps, named for their shape. So these were clamps that looked like clovers. And it says that these clamps were known for their intense hold. Ouch. Again, I don't get it. Why would one want to make their nipples bleed to feel good? But do your thing, man. Do your thing.
Gay!
Fast forward to the groovy 60s and the 70s, the sexual revolution started to change everything. So this meant that sex shops were springing up in cities like San Francisco, and nipple clamps became a staple of those shops. I haven't spent much time in sex shops, but do they have a wall of nipple clamps? Is there a nipple clamp room? Put it in the comments. I'm curious. Now, at this time, manufacturers started to add rubber tips for comfort and chains for flair. Maybe it was for flair, it was probably for their partner to pull on. They marketed these versatile little devices for pleasure and control, and they would put safety tips on the boxes that would say, don't leave these things on for more than 20 to 30 minutes, or you might lose permanent feeling in your nipple, or at least have them go numb. The BDSM mantra of risk-aware consensual kink, or RACK, R-A-C-K, grew alongside these toys, emphasizing communication and care.
Sometimes I guess there just aren't enough rocks.
By the 1980s and the 1990s, nipple clamps hit pop culture. Just think about Madonna and all the fetish wearing inspired stuff she used to have and the clamps on the end of her bras. So the internet started to supercharge access to the nipple clamps in the 2000s, with online retailers offering everything from weighted clamps to vibrating ones. I had no idea that existed. There are vibrating nipple clamps out there, so that's got to make it even hurt more. Today you can find magnetic nipple clamps, which I don't know how that works. What inside you is made of metal? How does the magnet stick? Maybe it's like one of those two-sided like ID name badges where you stick the magnet under your shirt. Maybe there's some kind of nippling like that. They make them electric stem, so now you can plug your nipple clamps into the wall apparently for a shocking experience, and you can even get them 3D printed. I don't know how having 3D printed nipple clamps changes anything, but yes. So far from the back rooms, now you can get this stuff on Amazon. And like I said, it's available in every sex shop anywhere. Kink has become much more broadly accepted these days. Not saying that's a good thing. It probably is a bad thing. So what's the big picture here? Nipple clamps have come a long way from way back into Sadie's time. This kind of mirrors the shift in how we think about sex as a culture and as a country, and many things have changed in that regards. But I just find nipple clamps incredibly funny. Nothing tantalizing about them. I have got a titty twister before. I think any kid that's played with their friends has had some kind of clamp attached to their nipple on purpose or by accident at some point, not for sexual reasons, and it never felt good. I remember those clips that you would kind of use to like bind stacks of paper. I remember a friend putting it on his nipple and keeping it there for as long as he could until it had to be removed. And that was like 5 seconds worth of the nipple clamp being on. But some people leave these things on for, I guess, up to 20 to 30 minutes at a time. And it is a turn on for them. It's a turn off for me. And that's another good question for you. Let's say you met somebody that's incredibly beautiful. You think they are just fantastic as far as their personality is concerned. You're starting to get relationship vibes from this person. You two just mesh together really, really well. And then that night comes where maybe it's your wedding night and you're going to share each other, your bodies together for the first time. And then you find out that he or she is really into nipple clamps. Well, they could be wanting to clamp something else. Keep that in mind. So the nipple's not the worst place that they could potentially clamp. And also keep in mind that you should maybe try anything once. I'm not saying anything that is bad and against, the Bible or God. Don't try that once. But the Bible doesn't say anything about nipple clamps that I can remember. So maybe give it a shot. Maybe you'll like it. Or maybe just give your nipples a little pinch right now. If it hurts, nipple clamps are not for you, apparently.
Pass.
Pass?
Yeah, pass. Super pass.
So I hope you enjoyed all this useless information that you never wanted on the micro history of nipple clamps. And if you are a nipple clamp fan out there, let me just say, ouch. Ouch for you. Because someone has to say it. You're not going to. You're probably going to say, oh yeah. You show me nipple clamps and I'm going to say, oh no. Hi-yow. Info Ninja. If you liked what you heard, please give me a thumbs up, a comment, and a share. You can find us on X at Info Ninja Show, on Rumble, Truth Social, YouTube, and of course, anywhere podcasts are sold.